Guys, happy Monday. I am Abra Kurt, a certified integrative life and wellness coach and lifestyle designer, and you are watching my series Sparked. Sparked is a weekly lifestyle series and its own vibrant online community that connects right here inside the comments of the show. Each week, we light fires around connection, reflection, and inspiration around topics like personal growth and wellness and the world around us. So if you're a dreamer, a doer, or just anyone who's looking for a more meaningful, joyful, or fulfilling life, you are in the right place, my friend. So say hi like Scott and Vicky. Let me know you're here and start connecting. So for those of you who might be new joining us tonight, every month at Sparked, our content centers on an overarching theme. And then every week we have a topic that's relevant to that theme. We'll connect around its how it shows up in our lives. We reflect on its importance, and then I share tips and resources for ways that we can take real action and make change in our own lives. Babe, hi Mama Vicky. Georgie, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being here. As you guys are hopping on, please say hi, let me know you're here, and start connecting with others. This is an interactive community, so I'll be asking you to share some things in the comments as we move through the evening. So you can show up there if you want. You don't have to. It's not required, but it does bring more to this community when more people engage. All right, you'll also see links to support our content and community. And every single week, we pay that forward by contributing 10% to charities doing important work in our local communities and all across the country. So if you've ever contributed, thank you so much. It means so much not only to my ability to be able to continue to keep the show running, provide content, deliver it here every week after week after week. We are now in the this is month 5 of our content here. We started back in May, and we have just been trucking along all through this pandemic. So thank you to everyone who has ever supported this show, who continues to support this show, and who shows up and shares and comments and engages with this community every single week. You mean the world to me and to this community. So thank you so, so much. All right, you guys, our theme this whole month of October is our best selves, our best selves. And this week, we're talking about a topic that's really, really important to staying connected to our best selves. And tonight, you guys, it's all about struggle. It's all about striding through struggle, right? Making it a little less hard, learning a little bit more, coming out stronger, smarter, better prepared for the next challenge and struggle that comes along. Because if there's one thing we learned in 2020, there's always another challenge, right, you guys? Okay, so I want to say hi to Nico. Thank you so much for being here. To Bob. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Rose, it's so great to see you. And George, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for being here. If there's anyone who I didn't see, I'm so sorry. I try to read through the comments, but sometimes they just forward and I don't see them all. So just keep commenting, keep engaging, and thank you so much. All right, you guys. Tonight, like I said, it's all about struggle. It's all about learning how to stride through struggle and come out on the other side better and stronger. So tonight we're going to talk about how to stay connected to our best selves, which is the theme for this whole month, how to stay connected to our best selves during the worst of times. And that's not always easy, right? It's easier said than done. Tonight, I'm going to share some tips and resources to make navigating those hard seasons and staying connected to our best selves a little bit easier, how to do it with more grit and grace. And I'm also going to share the number one reason people stay stuck in struggle. Because you guys, I've been there. You may have been there too. We all sometimes get stuck in our struggle, right? And it's hard to see a way out. And I'm going to talk about the number one reason why we sometimes stay stuck in struggle. So if that sounds like a heck yeah to you guys, please send up some hearts. Send up some hearts for struggling with more grit and grace, coming out better, stronger, more prepared on the other side. And please hit that share button, you guys. Hit that share button. And tonight I want to give you a really special reason why. I shared a story about a really, really hard personal struggle of my own the other week. And the response has been like overwhelming, not just on the post itself, but messages I've gotten and all kinds of feedback from people saying, thank you for sharing your story and letting me know I'm not alone. And tonight we're going to be talking about struggle, how we all struggle. We'll probably share some ways here in the comments in a minute about what we've actually struggled through, right? Things that we've struggled with, because I'm going to ask y'all to do that. So start thinking now. And the most important thing we can do for each other and for other people in our friends and family list here on social media is to let people know, you know what? You're not alone. You're not alone. I've struggled. Scott has struggled. I bet Nico has struggled. I bet Georgie has struggled. I bet Vicky has struggled. I bet we all have had struggles in different ways, in different times, and for different reasons in our lives. And just coming out and saying, I've struggled. There is no shame in that, you guys. There is no shame in it. Okay? We have all struggled in different ways. So admitting it, sharing our stories, and sharing tips and resources so other people can come through those hard seasons a little bit better. What better way to spend a Monday night, right, you guys? So send up some hearts, hit that share button, and let's dive in to tonight's struggling topic, right? Before we do, you guys know we always start off with a quote of the week here. Nico says, yeah, and still struggling. We all do, right? It's kind of like a daily thing, like challenges come up or, old habits resurface. And it's active work, right? Every day, you guys, it's active work every single day. Nico, thank you so much for saying that. It's so important because I want everybody to know who, is struggling now, right? Even when we get through the really hard seasons, I'm sorry to say there are more challenges, right? And that's what I said earlier. 2020 has showed us there's always something else around the corner that we don't see. So Nico, thank you for saying that. Donna says the struggle is real. Scott says, quote, and we're going to get to the quote in just a minute, but you guys, this is a really special Monday here at Sparked because a very special person to our community is having a birthday today. And I know you guys already saw it a little bit in the comments. So the spoiler has already happened, but you guys, it is Georgie Smith's birthday. Georgie has been with this community since its very beginning, all the way back in May, and she is celebrating her 70th birthday today. So if we can all take to the comments, say happy birthday to Georgie. Thank you so much for being such a special part of our community, for letting your light shine in my life and in the life of everyone who joins us here week after week after week. I know we've all learned things from you. I know we've all shared with you, and we're sharing our struggles tonight. So thank you for being part of this. Happy birthday, Georgie. Happy birthday. Okay, so we wanted to do that before the quote of the week, because what better way to start off a show than to celebrate somebody who's been really, really important to that show since its beginning. Okay, so as Scott said, though, it is time for the quote of the week. And you guys, sometimes I'll share like a, celebrity quote or, some more famous person or an author or something like that. And it's somebody that we all kind of know something about. This week, the quote is from another one of the Greek philosophers, a Greek philosopher who we haven't talked about yet in Sparked, but is a really interesting guy. So this week, the quote is from Epictetus. And you guys, he was a Greek philosopher. He was born a slave and became one of the most influential Greek philosophers in the history of civilization. And I want to tell you a little bit about his theory and his philosophy, right? So to Epictetus, all external events are beyond our control. We get that, right? The things that happen to us, we can't control that. But he taught that individuals are responsible for our own actions, how we respond to those things that happen to us. So you guys, he was civilization's first life coach. Basically, because all the underlying thread of our work, that we choose how we respond to the things that happen, he was saying that way back when. Okay, so this week's quote is from Epictetus, civilization's first life coach. And our quote is this: The greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it. Skillful pilots gain their reputations from storms and tempests. The greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it. Skillful pilots gain their reputation from storms and tempests. And of course, he's not talking about, pilots of 747s, right? Like he's talking about the pilots who steered their ships through ocean tempests. And I love that word tempest. I think we need to use that more in the 21st century. That's a great way to talk about bad weather. I love language. So the harder it is, the more glory, the more satisfaction, right, there is in overcoming it. And the skillful pilots gain their reputation from the storms and the tempests, right? It's not the calm waters that make us who we are. It's the tests, right? It's the tests in life that make us who we are, where we earn our stripes, we earn our reputations, we learn those hard lessons. But you guys, we have to learn them. And that is what tonight is all about. Scott says, Tempest was a cool 80. I don't know, was that a cool 80s band song? He's going to enlighten us here. Okay. So I love that quote because it reminds us that the most skillful among us have gotten that way because of struggle, because of hard lessons, right? The strongest, the bravest, the most courageous, the most resilient, we all struggle. And sometimes the greater those struggles, the more amazing the person becomes on the other side of it. And so there's glory in that. There is pride in our struggle, you guys, not shame, not shame. There is pride in our struggle and in sharing it with other people. And that is what I want tonight to be about. So I want to ask you guys in the comments to finish this sentence. I mentioned at the top of the show I was going to ask you to share some ways that you've struggled. And if you feel comfortable doing so, I would love for you to share in the comments, to finish the sentence, I have struggled with blank. I have struggled with fill in the blank. Because I bet we all have. And as Nico said, many of us still do, right? And let's show people that they're not alone. Let's show people struggling that we are in it with them. We have struggles too, and we're all trying to overcome something and work through something. So please finish the sentence. I have struggled with blank. I will share mine because you guys, I do what I do because I have quite a list. I have quite a list, you guys. Literally everything. I have, honest hand to God, you guys, I have been broke. I have been jobless. I have been without health insurance. I've had unhealthy relationships. I have a couple of toxic relatives. I have struggled with my weight. I had to wear a back brace in high school and have a back surgery at the age of 15, okay? I have a long, long list of struggles. We could sit here for an entire hour's episode, me just listing all the ways I've struggled in my life and things I've had to overcome. And I know every single one of those things has made me more resilient. And while all of those things were hard, it was just 2 years ago that I faced what was really kind of the darkest period in my life, when the struggle seemed insurmountable to me. And oddly enough, it was right after I had earned my life and wellness coaching certification. And while we are taught that we should be our first client, right? We do a practicum with others in our course. We should train our, lessons on ourselves as well. It literally never occurred to me that I would need life coaching on some level, right? That I would need those lessons. And there I was in the midst of struggle, and I couldn't see that I needed the help myself. And so sometimes we don't even recognize the help that we have, the resources at our fingertips, right? And so tonight is also going to be about helping us to identify the resources that we have around us and how and where to seek help. Georgie says weight control. Yes, Georgie, thank you for sharing that. It's a struggle I know a lot of us share. I struggle with it. And I think pandemic has made that even harder for a lot of us. I know I have gained weight during pandemic. I have friends who have gained more weight during the pandemic. Scott says he has struggled wondering if he is a good enough musician to make a living performing and writing music. Yeah, we all, imposter syndrome, right, Scott? I mean, that's basically imposter syndrome in our careers, right? Wondering if we're good enough, if we're like, if we can really do this, right? It's something I struggle with, right? Who am I to be life coaching somebody, and I think about like, well, I've struggled so much, like my life isn't perfect. Who am I to be coaching people? And then I remind myself the struggle makes us better, right? And wondering if we're good enough also is kind of a sign that we care about the thing that we're doing, right? The imposter syndrome shows that we care. And it's the people who don't wonder those things that you kind of have to worry about sometimes, the overconfident, the blindly confident, right? And I agree, Trish. I think he is a wonderful musician. And so far, so good, right? Nico struggles with anxiety. Thank you, Nico, for your bravery and for sharing that with us. I have struggled with anxiety. I bet there are probably other people here. You are not alone. You are not alone, Nico. Thank you for sharing that. George, struggling to understand you know who's toxic effect on the world. Yeah, so many of us are struggling to understand what the heck is going on around us in the world and why. You know, it's unfathomable, right? Especially when we think like if people just cared about each other, or if this just happened. And the events of the world are hard to explain, and I struggle with that. I struggle with that on a daily basis. Rose says weight and self-worth. Rose, thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah. Georgie says also self-worth. And see, this is the beauty of this community, you guys. I love that we can share these struggles, that we can say, yeah, I struggled with that too. And we can see like this person struggled with the same thing I did. And sharing those struggles just opens us all up a little bit more, right? It opens us up a little bit more because it's when we stay closed up, right, that we can't be open to the healing, to the resources, to the help that we need to let in. It makes me think of that Leonard Cohen song quote that the cracks are where the light gets in, right? And that's so true. That's so true. And we've talked about the word kintsugi here in this community in the past, and how that means the repair of broken things with gold that makes them more beautiful and stronger and resilient. So it's the cracks, it's the breaks, it's the opening up, it's the sharing. Trish says she struggles with weight, not liking her IT job, or anxiety. Trish, thank you for sharing that. I know so many of us here are sharing that we struggle with our weight. Not liking your IT job. Yeah, I can also say that I've shared that struggle with you, Trish. I was in a job that was unhealthy for me. And I can relate to your struggle. And anxiety. A lot of us struggle with anxiety. And of course, another power up for Scott and his music. Yes. And that is also what this community is about, right? Lifting each other up. And so I love that. I love that. Thank you guys so much for sharing those struggles with me and with each other, and for relating and connecting to each other, because that is what this is about. One of the pieces of feedback I've heard very frequently from the story I shared the other week is, I would have never guessed. I would have never guessed. And it's why I shared the picture I shared, because I was out to lunch. I was out to lunch with my husband. I was holding up a glass of rosé. I was smiling, but I was struggling so hard, y'all. I was struggling so hard. And sometimes we do a really good job of hiding what we're going through. And I realized finally, after I started talking about it and opening up and getting the support and help and the resources and turning my own teachings on myself, that's when the healing started. That is when the healing started. So thank you guys for your bravery and your sharing. I want to share also, because you guys know every week I clip a little something out of the Washington Post, and this week, yeah, it's another comic strip. Because again, there's always something really relevant. There's always something really relevant. And this one is Pearls Before Swine. which is sometimes a little snarky, sometimes a little funny, but it's, animals are the main characters of it, and they all have different personalities. And rat is sometimes the snarky, sarcastic one. Pig is kind of like the optimistic, hopeful, sweetheart. And in this strip, Pig is climbing up a mountain, and there's a sign pointing up that reads, "Wise ass on the hill." And so he's climbing up to the top to ask the wise ass on the hill a question. And he says, "Oh, wise ass on the hill, tell us all, when will things get better?" And the little guru dude, wise ass on the hill, says, "When you decide they get better." When will things get better? Wise ass says, "When you decide they get better." And Pig says, "What does that mean?" And he says that you can't control events. I mean, this guy's basically channeling Epictetus here, right? And our quote from the beginning of the show. You can't control events, but you can control your reaction to those events. So Epictetus, you guys, showing up in a Pearls Before Swine comic strip. But the cute part is at the end, Pig says, "I was hoping he'd just say Tuesday. I was hoping he'd just say Tuesday." Because, right, you guys, sometimes, like, we just want, like, the easy answer. We just want the easy answer. We want to be able to take a pill and make it all magically go away, or wave a wand, or wake up one day and it's just all magically better. And unfortunately, that is not how struggle works. There is a lot of hard work in overcoming struggle. And so we are going to talk about ways to do that here tonight. And we're going to start with how to stay connected to our best selves during the worst of times, right? Because October is all about our best selves. But, I know for me personally, when I'm struggling, my best self has gone right out the window. And particularly 2 years ago, during the really, really hard period I faced, I was a whole host of like my worst self sides. I was a rage monster. I would just break down and start crying. Like all of the emotions, all of the negative emotions. And I was letting them out, but I wasn't feeling any healing from it. So I wasn't processing them in a healthy way. And I definitely was not staying connected to my best self. So I want to share 4 tips with you guys for staying connected and rooted in our best selves as we go through struggle, because it helps us get through struggle more gracefully, sometimes more quickly, and it also allows us to process our emotions in a more healthy way and not stay stuck. So 4 tips for staying connected to our best selves during the worst of times. Number 1 is, and we should do this even when we're not struggling. Okay, we should do this one even when we're not struggling, because it will build resilience and build a connection that will serve us more when we are. It is this. Make a list of your top 5 core values. Your top 5 core values, you guys. Whether that's like love or compassion or creativity or authenticity or excellence or playfulness or whatever they are, a list of your top 5 core values, write them down, because we've talked here before, when we write things down, the percentage goes up that it sticks, right? So write them down and read them every single day. Read them every single day and remind yourself out loud to lead with those things. Because I can tell you that excellence and compassion are 2 of my core values, and I didn't have them written down in a list when I was struggling really badly 2 years ago, and I definitely was not leading with those things when the hard days were their hardest. And so if we lead with our core values and we write them down and we reflect on those every single day and we say, this is the person I am. These are my values. This is what I'm rooted in. This is what I'm grounded in. This is how I want to show up in the world. It helps us lead with those things, even when we're not feeling them fully on the inside, this is how we want to show up in the world. This is how we want to show up to the people that we love. This is how we want to show up to people that we might be meeting for the first time, right? Our colleagues, our family, our friends. Leading with our core values, you guys. Top 5, write them down, reflect on it every single day. And it's a good idea to do that even when we're not struggling. But when we are, it helps us stay rooted and grounded in our best selves. Okay, number 2, make a daily to-do list for each one of the 4 pillars of wellness. So like a daily to-do list. And you're like, I'm already struggling. Like I need 4 more things to do. Thanks, Coach Abra. That's super helpful. Actually, it is, you guys. Actually, it is. So just a refresher, the 4 pillars of wellness are our mental wellness, our emotional wellness, our physical wellness, and our spiritual wellness. And again, this is a good thing to do even when we're not struggling, because if we build that habit every single day, when things get hard, it's just second nature, right? It's second nature, and we've already built that muscle, and all we have to do is just turn it on in periods of struggle rather than trying to cultivate a whole new habit. So setting a to-do list for each one of the 4 pillars of wellness. So how am I going to work on my mental health today? I'm going to shut down that negative self-talk reel in my head. I'm going to stop saying I'm not good enough at my job, and I'm just going to plow through and try to write a new song today or whatever it is, right? So something to do for mental wellness. Emotional wellness. I'm going to reach out to a friend I haven't spoken to in a while. I'm just going to text somebody and say, hey, I was just thinking of you today, and I was thinking about that time we did this, and I just wanted you to know you popped up in my head. I hope you're doing well. Heart emoji, right? You guys just do something for your emotional health. Reach out. Physical wellness. This is one I'm going to come back to in another set of tips later on, but like move your body, eat something that's good for you, right? So a physical wellness to do. Spiritual wellness. Pray if that's part of your spiritual practice. Meditate. Practice gratitude. Give back in some way. Those are all spiritual connections. So a daily to-do list with each of the 4 pillars of wellness helps us cultivate, right, our whole self, our whole wellness self, right? And the more we proactively do something in each one of those pillars and focus on doing something good for ourselves, the less we're focusing on the struggle. Okay. Number 3, remind yourself what makes you feel like you. Remind yourself what makes you feel like you and what pieces of that you puzzle are missing during the struggle, right? So like for me, for example, I was going through a period where I felt like I didn't have control over my own space anymore. That was one of the hard things, right? Like I didn't have a place where I could go for privacy anymore. Like the house we were living in suddenly felt really claustrophobic for me. And my office didn't have a door on it. It was a loft that overlooked like our front area, and I could hear the TV that was on all day. And if I needed to take calls and things like I just didn't feel like I had a space to go to anymore, right? And, Virginia Woolf tells us we all need a room of one's own. And that was really, I grew up as an only child, and so not having my own space, and I lived alone for so long. And even, Scott and I have our own offices and places like that. But then after, the situation occurred that led to this really difficult period, I just felt like that was taken from me, and I couldn't work in the way I was used to working, and I couldn't take calls in the way I was used to being able to take calls. I couldn't do, the course I was taking, right? Like all the things. And so I looked at myself and I said, God, like my control over my own domain is missing. And so we start asking ourselves, like, what would make me feel whole again? Like having an office with the door on would be a really good thing, right? Getting some privacy back, those kinds of things. So whatever that is for you in the period of struggle, what are the puzzle pieces of you that feel like are missing right now? Just even identifying those things is a huge step, right? Because sometimes we just feel like something's off, something's missing, but we don't do the work to identify what it is. So what makes you feel like you? and what is the puzzle piece or two or three or however many there are that are missing, and how can we start putting those puzzle pieces back together, right? Okay, and the last one, you guys, the last one is really important. When we struggle, staying connected to our best selves, I want us to stop saying I'm sorry. I want us to stop saying I'm sorry and start saying thank you. And an example of that is, right, if we're struggling and we tell a friend and we're like, oh my gosh, like, this is what I'm struggling with, and I'm gaining all this weight and the pandemic, and I don't feel connected, and I haven't seen my colleagues, and I can't do the things I used to love to do, and it's just this whole litany of things, and I feel, unhealthy, and whatever, like, our struggle is, right? We go through this whole litany of things, and we feel like we've just opened up and we vented to our friend, and the first thing we do, y'all, the first thing we do after we say all the things that we're struggling with, we apologize for it. We apologize for it to the friend or the family member or whoever who said, tell me what's up with you. Like, tell me, how are you doing? And we ask those questions because we care. We say all the things that we say, right? There's all these ways that we're struggling, and then we apologize. And you guys, stop apologizing, because you know what that does, right? To our own minds, when we say I'm sorry, that reflex happens because we feel shame or guilt for something. So we feel bad for sharing our struggles. And instead of saying I'm sorry, say thank you. Say thank you for listening to all of that. Oh my gosh, it felt so good to get that off my chest. Thank you for being such a good listener. Not I'm sorry. Not I'm sorry. We're not sorry for sharing our struggles. We are proud of sharing our struggles. We are grateful for the loved one who listened. Stop saying I'm sorry. Start saying thank you. All right. And now I want to give us all something to say thank you for. It is time for the moment of joy, you guys. The moment of joy, the part of the show where we focus on some good news in the midst of all of the anxiety churning bad news in the world, right? As George says, he has some anxiety and struggles with understanding what's happening in the world, as do many of us, I'm sure. So it's time for the moment of joy, you guys. Time for the moment of joy. And this week's moment of joy connects back to our theme, actually, of staying connected to our best selves during the worst of times. And there's a story that came out of a senior center that just lit my heart up during all of this. And there's a senior citizen center in England, actually. They should think about doing this kind of thing here in the States and like bring the fun a little bit more, right? But so many senior citizens, right? We probably have heard this over and over and over during the pandemic. So many seniors in, nursing homes and assisted living facilities were cut off from their loved ones during this pandemic because it was dangerous to be visiting with people from the outside. So they locked a lot of those places down, and people who were used to getting visitors didn't get visitors. Or sometimes in those cases, there are people who don't get visitors at all, right? And so seniors were especially struggling in those kinds of facilities. And there was one amazing facility in England with an amazing facilities director who was like thinking creatively about how to bring some more joy to the lives of the seniors in her care. And she came up with the idea that they're going to recreate iconic album covers. So what better way to connect to our best selves during a difficult time than to tap into our inner rock star when we're like 85, right, you guys? How cool is that? So I'm going to share some pictures of you guys. And if you Google this, just Google like seniors recreating iconic album covers and you'll get like the whole photo gallery. But there are some amazing ones, right? Like here's a woman doing David Bowie. I mean, how cool is this? Okay, you guys. What happened there? This is technology, right? Technology, guys. Okay. Adele's famous album cover, right? This is so cool, you guys. I love these. Taylor Swift's 1989. The Boss, you guys, The Boss, born in the USA. It's not just the women, men too. Here is a guy who did The Bosses, born in the USA. And this is one of my favorites, y'all. This is one of my favorites. The Clash, London Calling. Look at this lady, like, getting ready to, like, he's thrashing his guitar and she's getting ready to, like, club the ground with her walking stick. These were so fun to look through, you guys, and brought me some joy this week, and I wanted to share that with you. A way that a senior living facility in England is helping its residents connect to their inner rock stars during these difficult times of the pandemic while they're cut off from friends, family, and loved ones on the outside. So yeah, very cool. What the album cover Scott says, Donna, in the immortal words of the Golden Girls, thank you for being a friend. Exactly. We say thank you, not I'm sorry. Not I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I'm your friend. I'm sorry you're my friend. I apologize. No, thank you. We say thank you. You guys, and those seniors are rock stars. So send up some hearts. Send up some hearts for the seniors in England recreating those iconic album covers, because some of them probably never even heard of those people, right? And they went like all in with their hearts, and they brought so much joy, and it went like super viral, and it's all over the interwebs, bringing joy to us here in Sparked this week. So, all right, moment of joy, you guys, moment of joy. I said at the top of the show that I was going to share the number one reason that people stay stuck in struggle. So the number one reason people stay stuck in struggle. If you guys have a guess, share with me in the comments what your guess is for why do we stay stuck? Like, if we know we're struggling, why do we stay on the hamster wheel of struggle? Why do we stay on the hamster wheel of struggle? If you guys have a guess, share in the comments. Dawn says, all about getting back up and trying again, like the central character in Scott's American Man song. Yeah, Scott has written some songs about struggle. Dawn, that's a great point. Thank you for saying that. So yeah, if you guys have any guesses, number one reason we stay stuck in struggle, share them in the comments. But I'm going to share right now. So there's always a little bit of a delay. Scott says fear of trying something. Yeah, that's a good one. Fear of trying something new, right? Our fear holds us back a lot. We've talked about mindset. Georgia says afraid of change. Yeah, it's a riff on, the same thing Scott said, right? Like fear, afraid of change, fear of trying something new. Those are great guesses. And they 100% contribute to keeping people stuck. But this is probably going to surprise you guys then. So the number one reason that people stay stuck in struggle is, Vicky says fear of failure. Yeah, it's the fear, right? Fear. Easy. It's easy and familiar. Yes, easy and familiar. This might actually sound counterintuitive, you guys. The number one reason people stay stuck in struggle is focusing entirely on the struggle. And you might be like, what? Well, if I'm struggling, I need to focus on the struggle so I can get through it. And actually, no, that is what keeps us stuck, right? So as an example, if I think back to the time I was broke and jobless, right? Because I have a struggle for everything. So I will tap back into my own life experience when I was jobless during the Great Recession, right? The PR firm that I was working for closed its doors. It was really hard to, find another job in my field at the time, burned through savings, and was really struggling financially, you guys, really struggling financially. I was living on my own back then in an apartment in Alexandria, Virginia, all by myself. And the struggle was real, you guys. To quote Donna a little while ago, yeah, the struggle was real. And so I didn't have the tools I have now. And I didn't have the mindset I have now. And I focused 100% on, I have no money to pay my bills. I have no money to pay my rent. What the crap am I going to do as I look at my checking account balance and my savings account balance week after week after week? I focused on the lack. I focused on the thing I didn't have. I focused on the thing I was struggling with the most, and it consumed me. And it kept me stuck. And of course, like I was applying for other jobs, I was going out on interviews, I was doing the things, but from a place of, God, I just got to get something like super fast and like start making some money and like pay these bills. And yeah, like that's a real tangible need when we're struggling financially, right? But focusing on the lack, what we focus on, we attract, right? I've talked about the law of attraction a little bit in the past. I've talked about it as a resource and getting comfortable with a concept that some people might think is a little too woo woo for them. It's not, you guys. It is not woo woo. It is a very real thing. The energy that we put out in the world comes back to us. It is true. It is real. And my life has changed as a result of embracing that philosophy. It has changed as a result of embracing that philosophy. Now, fast forward, okay? That was 12 years ago. 12 years ago during the recession of 08 and 09. So fast forward to now, right? Scott and I are, and I stayed stuck in that for a long time. I was stuck in that for a very long time. I struggled financially until, finally I did get a new job, and I was able, it was the job in corporate America, right? With a great salary and all the things, and I was able to dig myself out quickly. But fast forward to the present day, right? It's 2020. Scott and I are both self-employed people, right? We are, he's a musician who tours and travels to Nashville once a month to write new songs and plays shows with his full band and plays shows as a solo musician. And, I'm trying to network and build a client base with a literally like brand new part of my work that I'm trying to get off the ground this year in terms of adding life coaching to my services. And this was all part of my plan at the beginning of 2020, and then the pandemic hits, and the brakes just go on the whole world, right? And we started talking about how to overcome that because, of course, the fear of like, oh my gosh, how are we going to earn a living during this time? Like, you think about those things. And we started pivoting. We got creative. Scott started doing his live shows on Facebook. I started finding, new ways to reach out to people, to, bring in income, to gain new clients. And the response, you guys, and we focused on the things that we could do, not on what we didn't have, not on what we couldn't do anymore. Scott didn't sit in his studio and focus on when am I going to be able to travel again? When am I going to be able to play at, clubs again? When am I going to be able to go to Nashville again? No, he's like, let's start setting up Zoom co-writes with the people that are in Nashville. So that started happening all the way back in April. I can still play to an audience by doing, live streaming shows on the internet, right? Pivot, get creative, figure out what we can do. Don't focus on the things that we can't. And the response from y'all, our communities, and the universe was overwhelming. And that is when we decided that we had to give back. We had to give back this whole time. It was going to be 10% of everything that comes in through our communities is going back out to do more good in the world and to pay it forward. But it was that mindset shift of not focusing on the thing that we don't have, which, right, in both cases was a source of income on some level, but focusing on what we could do. Now I want to share the close second reason that people stay stuck and struggle, right? So the number one reason is we only focus on the thing we don't have. We focus on the lack. We focus only on the struggle. Close second to that is not focusing on the struggle. Okay, so yes, counterintuitive, you guys, a little funny, but it's very true. So there's two extremes, and it's why so many of us stay stuck in struggle. It's the people that focus only on the struggle, only on the struggle. It's the thing in their minds constantly. I don't have a job. I've gained all this weight. Oh my God, I get on the scale every single morning and I look at those however many extra pounds. Or whatever our struggle is, right? Like, oh, this coworker, like I see her coming and I just like cringe or want to duck in, a corridor or whatever, right? You focus on the thing that is wrong, the thing that's bad. So that's the number one reason. The second thing is just ignoring it altogether. Like focusing 100% on it, focusing 0% on it. Equally, though, going to keep us stuck in struggle. Equally going to keep us stuck in struggle, because if we don't focus on the struggle at all and just ignore it and pretend like it's just going to magically go away one day, we're not being proactive. We're not taking ownership of creating a path forward, building something new, getting out of the struggle place, right? So it's facing the struggle, but not focusing 100% on it, and doing the steps to get us out of it, but focusing on what we can do, not what we don't have. So those are the two big reasons that we stay stuck in struggle. Okay. And I've been talking a lot about giving back and charity, because for us, that was part of the mindset shift, right? When the world shut down and when people struggle, our first, instinct can be to, well, my gosh, we just have to, lock everything down and we can't spend any money. And, we have to stop our charitable giving and we just, like lock down. And I can tell you that Scott and I have given more money away in the past 7 months than we have in probably the past 3-4 years combined. And that is hand to God truth, y'all. And it's because of you guys, right? It's because of you guys. We couldn't do this without our communities. But it's that abundance mindset. It's that abundance mindset of, I'm focusing on what I can do. I am attracting what I am focusing on. Our communities are showing up for us. Opportunities are opening up for us. And to put that energy back out in the world, we're going to pay it forward with a 10% contribution to charity every single week. And that has made such a huge difference. So again, I want to express my gratitude for all of you in my community, for everyone who has supported me in this show, who shows up, who shares, who engages, who contributes to support the content and community. You all show up in so many different ways, and I'm so grateful for that. And right now, it is time to talk about this week's charity, because we've talked about what keeps us stuck in struggle. We've talked about some tips for getting out of it. We're going to talk in a little while about, I'm going to share just a handful more tips and resources for navigating through the hard times. It's not about connecting to our best selves. It's just tips and resources for getting through the hard things with a little more grit and grace. But sometimes, y'all, we know, right? Like doing these things, it's easier when we have more resources, right? Take the pandemic, for example. We are, all of us in the world, in different ways, dealing with the same pandemic. But the ways in which we deal with it depend on the resources we have at our disposal, right? Like George and Amal Clooney can go off to their villa in, I can't think of the place right now, but in Italy somewhere, and, just lock the gates and, lock down, right? We don't all have villas in Italy that we can just, get away from the world in. And so our resources impact our ability to get through change, to get through struggle differently. And one of the demographics that struggle most with an ability to get out of struggle, right? The most vulnerable and helpless among us are children. Our children, you guys. When kids are stuck in struggle because of their families, lack of resources, or a poverty or abuse, or, lack of access to support systems or education or whatever the things may be, right? Children can't lift themselves out of struggle the same way we can as adults. Their resources are the most limited. Regardless of what their families have, children's ability to advocate and act for themselves is more limited than any of us in many ways, right? And so this week's charity is all about helping children who are stuck in struggle. And I know you guys have heard me talk before about Scott and I making the decision to sponsor a child through Save the Children. And this week we are going to contribute more to Save the Children with the help of this community. And we're going to contribute more to their rural poverty fund. And that's where our little girl resides. Our little girl's name is Skyly, and I think I've shared her picture here in the past, but I don't know if I've shared this. So over the summer, we got a letter from Skyly, and she drew us a picture of a little orange kitty cat. And she told us about summer being her favorite season. She loves it because she can swim. One thing she's learning now is math. One thing she'd like to learn is reading. Now, Skyly just turned 8, okay? And she is having some difficulty still writing letters, spelling, right? This is her spelling of the word reading. And so on some levels, this warmed my heart so much, and on others, it hurt my heart because I thought back to, my own childhood, and I was reading books when I was 5. Like, I went to kindergarten being able to read. And she's 8 and she's still struggling with these things. And so what can we do for these kids to help them get out of struggle? And so Save the Children, you guys, Save the Children does so much to help kids like Skyly, and particularly their rural poverty program. 1 in 4, you guys, 1 in 4 kids in rural America lives in poverty. And it's a greater concentration of poverty than even exists in our urban city centers. And the lack of access to nearby resources exacerbates those problems and conditions. And so Save the Children comes in with programs like literacy programs, healthcare programs, all of the things that kids like Skyly need to help begin to lift themselves up out of the struggle. And so that is our charity for this week, y'all. Save the Children, the Rural Poverty Fund, helping kids like Skyly, who drew us a little orange kitty because she's just the sweetest little soul. Helping kids like Skyly get the resources and access and support they need to break the cycle of struggle in those kinds of communities. So if you haven't made a contribution and you're considering it, this is how we are paying it forward this week, you guys, to Save the Children. Thank you so much to everybody who's already donated, and please consider a contribution because it will go forward to help children like our sweet Skyly. So thank you. Okay, you guys, last part of the show, I want to share a couple more just quick tips and resources for navigating the hard times. Thank you, Georgie. Thank you, Vicki. Yeah, great. It's a great charity. I can't tell you how rewarding it has been just being a part of Save the Children's mission, getting these kinds of communications from Skyly. It shows that, like, there's work being done, you guys. There's work being done, and we can break these cycles for future generations. So thank you. A couple quick tips and resources to get through the hard times with a little bit more grit, a little bit more grace. We have a dozen tonight, I want to share 6 tips and 6 resources. So I'm going to start with the tips. Number 1, we talk about this all the time here. I'm starting with mindset work, because overcoming struggle has to start here. It starts with our head. It starts with, right, not focusing on the struggle, not focusing on the thing, but also with reframing struggle. So that in and of itself is what we talked about in the number 1 and number 2 reasons people stay stuck. They either only focus on it or they don't focus at all on it. This tip is about focusing just enough, okay? So it's like the Goldilocks of focus, okay, on struggle. And it's about reframing struggle. So instead of thinking of struggle, think of it as striving, right? The title of today's episode is Striding Through Struggle. So think of striding, like taking those long, like confident strides, right? But if we think of striving also, striving is working toward something. So when we're struggling, it's because something has gone wrong, or we're lacking something, or there's been this unexpected challenge come up in our lives that we have to overcome. But if we think of it instead of what am I working toward. I'm striving for something. I'm not struggling. I'm striving for a new job. I'm striving to get out of debt. I'm striving to become physically healthier. I'm striving to improve my mindset. I'm striving to overcome imposter syndrome. So instead of focusing on the struggle, reframing it to striving. And when we get to the resources in just 2 minutes, there's a TED Talk that is really powerful, that is going to be a great resource with mindset work, in addition to the work that we do here in this community. So, mindset, reframing struggle to striving. Focus on not overcoming the problem, focus on building the new, right? Instead of fighting the bad, focus on building the new. Okay, so mindset, reframe, struggle to strive. Number 2, and this is what was really powerful for me, you guys, 2 years ago, and I've learned that this is, for my clients, this is also a consistent theme with a lot of the people that I work with one-on-one. And this is about doing an environmental audit. So we can do the mindset work. We can do our 4 to-do lists, right? Like mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health. But if our environment is still contributing to the ways that we struggle, right? If we think about Skyly, right? And the rural poverty conditions that keep kids, that keep adults stuck in those really difficult circumstances, right? If our environment isn't supportive of our change in other ways, it might keep us stuck. So doing an environmental audit, and it's not just, the bigger picture of, are we in a depressed rural community? It's about the micro as well. Like, is my house conducive to my change? No, I don't have a door on my office and it overlooks the thing, and I can hear the TV now all day because it's on all day. And, somebody is yelling up the stairs, almost, every hour when I'm on calls or when I'm doing this, and there's no privacy, and I feel like my autonomy and my ability to control my space is gone. So how is my environment either contributing to my struggle or making it worse? Or is there something I can do with my environment that will help lessen the struggle? So there's work that we do on ourselves, and then there's also the external work we can do in the spaces around us. And that was a huge part of overcoming and healing for me, was actually getting out of a space, out of a house that no longer served me, that no longer served the needs that we now had in front of us. And that environmental change was huge. And yes, I did a ton of work on my mindset and my responses and, my habits and all the things. But for me, one of the biggest issues was the physical environment, and changing that was immensely helpful. So doing an environmental audit, like, what are the ways that my environment lifts me up? Or is it kind of a downer? Like, have I not really, could I put some color on the wall, and would that make me feel better? Like, even adding cozy elements to our environment can help us feel better when we're struggling through challenges, right? Or if we're feeling depressed or anxious, if we have an environment that is calming or soothing, right? It helps us get through those periods with a little bit more grace. So do an environmental audit, look at the world around you and see about the ways that it might be contributing to the struggle, what we can do with our environment to help contribute to success, right? To striving. Donna says she doesn't want to be negative, but made her blood boil earlier today to read an article that noted that QAnon is trying to hijack the phrase. Yeah, I've seen that too, Donna, and it's bothered me as well, right? There are real problems that kids are facing in this world, and then there are organizations that are just trying to be distractions. And it's not negative, it's a fact of life, right? It's one of the things that George, probably was alluding to in his I struggle with not understanding what is going on in the world around us today, right? And we all do, and we all look at things like that, and it makes our blood boil and increases our anxiety, and is a way that we struggle and a challenge that we face. And staying focused on what we can do, right? Because we can't always change those things, those people, those organizations, those circumstances, but we can change our responses to them, right? We can be the change we want to see in the world, right? And so there are always things we can do, even when it seems so extreme and so outside of our control. As Epictetus and the wise ass on the hill from our Pearls Before Swine comic strip earlier told us, right? We can change how we respond to things, and things get better when we decide they do. So maybe a little easier said than done, and not quite so reductive, but there are things we can do. So Donna, yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's an unfortunate fact George, we must remain vigilant to expose, threats to our civilization, threats to our civility. I'm so looking forward to, I'm going to remind everybody of the book that we're reading this month in a couple of minutes, but I can't wait to talk about the things that unite us next week, and that is going to be our theme for next week. But moving on with the tips in the meantime, so we're going to do our mindset work. We're going to do an environmental audit and look at the ways that our home or our neighborhood or our office or whatever it is might be contributing to our struggle. And number 3, we're going to reach out, you guys. We are going to reach out, nurture our connections with people who make us feel safe, loved, valued, and supported. Safe, loved, valued, and supported. Okay, those are the things we need during our periods of difficulty. Those are the things we need during struggle. We need to feel safe, we need to feel loved, we need to feel valued, and we need to know that we're supported. So nurturing connections with the people who make us feel those emotions is so important. And even if it's just one person, or maybe it's a therapist or a doctor, or maybe we don't have a spouse or a family member, but a friend or someone, even if it's just one person that we can maintain a connection with, a bond with, that makes us feel safe, loved, valued, and supported in times of struggle, can make so much difference in how we walk through that challenge, right? Number 4, I want to talk about supplements. Dietary supplements, you guys. Yep, that is one of my tips. Taking daily supplements, because I know for me, and I know this is probably true for so many of us, I think it's probably why a lot of us are struggling with our weight right now during a pandemic, because we comfort ourselves with food in a lot of ways, right? And our comfort foods look different for all of us, but comfort food is real, y'all. Comfort food is real, and the weight we gain from it is real. And also the nutrition that becomes unbalanced from it is real, right? So when we're eating so many, sweets to feel better, or just, comfort ourselves, or so much pasta, or whatever our thing is, our nutrition when we struggle is most likely unbalanced. So taking a daily multivitamin when it's going to be hard to say, you need to eat your salad every day during this really, really hard season, is probably not going to be as likely to happen as just being able to take a multivitamin every day. So there are things like that we can do that, just take your multivitamin, get your balanced nutrition. Also, 2 other supplements that I highly, highly recommend, and I don't recommend things like this lightly, you guys, but a multivitamin is part of my daily routine. I do it even when I'm not struggling, just to make sure I'm getting my right nutrient balance. And high quality supplements, you guys, high quality supplements, because there's so many of these companies selling vitamins, and there's a pill for this and an herbal extract for that, and making sure that we have high quality supplements is really important. So a daily multivitamin is one. Vitamin D, especially heading into the season of fall and winter, reduced amounts of sunlight. During the pandemic, I think a lot of us spent more time indoors, probably going to spend more time indoors, in months ahead. So our exposure to vitamin D is going to decrease. And a lack of vitamin D can impact our mental wellness, it can impact our emotional wellness, and of course, our physical wellness. And it can have a whole host of negative impacts that we may not even realize that are stemming from a vitamin D deficiency. And that's another struggle that I've had. I can add to my list. Yes, I have been severely vitamin D deficient. So all these lessons, you guys, I've struggled through all the things, so you don't have to. So vitamin D supplement. And then the last supplement I want to mention is fish oil. Fish oil, you guys, because it is super rich in omega-3 fatty acids. And when our nutrition is unbalanced, often our omegas are unbalanced and we get more omega-6s and fewer omega-3s. And the omega-3 fatty acids are not only nutritionally beneficial for us, but they are great mood boosters as well. You guys, I will share a link in the show notes that will go live tomorrow, but there is really promising research from several different sources that show fish oil supplements can improve mood, can have positive mental health outcomes. And the article I'm going to share is actually from the Harvard Medical School. So there is very high quality research about the benefits of a fish oil supplement, but especially when it comes to fish oil, not all supplements are created equal. And again, I don't endorse products lightly, you guys. And this is one, I am not an affiliate. I'm not getting any, kind of incentive to promote this product, but this is the fish oil supplement that we take here in our house. It is omega-3 fish oil, and I recommend this for several different reasons, because fish oil is only beneficial if it contains two kinds of triglycerides. And I don't want to get too much into the nitty-gritty of this, but it is important to note, and I'll put this in the show notes, but there are two kinds of triglycerides that are actually linked to the mood and mental well-being improvement. And it's DHA and my other one is, where is it right now? Okay, it's DHA and EPA. DHA and EPA fatty acids, you guys, triglycerides. In this particular supplement, it's high quality. It's derived from wild Alaska pollock. So if you're going to take a fish oil supplement, you want to know where it comes from. I'm huge believer in we need to know where our food comes from, and particularly supplements when it's just a pill and you're like, I don't even know what's in there. Knowing what's in it, where it came from, super important. This is sports research, and I'll put a link to this. I ordered these from Amazon, actually. This is a super high quality fish oil supplement, and they do have positive links to mental well-being and mood boosting. So I wanted to share that. So 3 kinds of supplements: multivitamin, vitamin D, and a fish oil supplement. And I'll share the link to that specific one because fish oil can be like all over the place, and some of it doesn't even have the beneficial triglycerides in it. It's just fish oil, and if people don't know, they don't know, and they'll take something that's not even built to help them in the way that it could. Okay, number 5, nature. Get out in nature, move your body. Get sunlight when you can. There are also therapeutic qualities to nature itself, okay? And last, give back. You guys, we've talked about charity, how charity is such an important part of the work that my husband and I do. And we've also talked here before in the show about how giving back in some way lights up receptors in our brain in scientific research studies that light up the same receptors as like happiness centers. So just doing something, giving back in some way. And I know when we're struggling, it's hard to focus on that, but even sharing our story and getting the feedback from someone that you made them feel less alone, that's doing something for someone else. So even sharing your struggle is giving back, you guys. And if there's one thing that we take away from tonight, sharing our struggles more is only going to help us more, and it's only going to help other people more. So let's get braver with that. Let's stop saying we're sorry for sharing our struggles and start saying thank you. All right. Some quick resources. I know we're over time, but you guys have heard me talk about The Gifts of Imperfection, Brene Brown. She is a genius. This book is applicable in so many ways. I love, love, love this book. And it's super, super thin, you guys. It's a quick read, and it's a great resource to keep at your fingertips. I talked about environmental audits. This book, Joyful, is fantastic, by Ingrid Fettel Lee. The Surprising Power of Ordinary Things to Create Extraordinary Happiness. And this book delves into the science of how our environments impact our mood. And there's some great worksheets and things like that in the back to do our own environmental audits. So I love this book for the environmental audit piece and learning about how we can do things for our environments to increase our mental and emotional well-being. I also want to remind you guys that, oh, sorry, I have one more resource I said I wanted to share. It was a TED Talk. The TED Talk that I mentioned when we were talking about the mindset work of focusing on building the future and not fighting the bad, building forward, not fighting. There's a really beautiful, powerful TED Talk, you guys, with Gabby Giffords and her husband, Mark Kelly. And it's about her recovery. It's about her mindset after being shot in the head and the long road that she still is struggling with to recovery. But she's asked in the TED Talk, would she rather get back the old Gabby or would she rather claim the new and keep moving forward? And she says so bravely, the new. The new. You guys, the whole it's like 18-minute TED Talk. It's so powerful. It's called Be Passionate, Be Courageous, Be Your Best. The title even is perfect for our topic, right? Gabby Giffords and her husband Mark Kelly. Again, I'm going to share these links in the show notes tomorrow, but that was one last resource I wanted to mention quickly. I want to remind everybody next week we're going to be back here to talk about Dan Rather's What Unites Us. I know so many of us are struggling in particular with the events of the world, and it's creating more anxiety and it's creating all the things. And if we focus for a little while on the things that we all have in common, y'all, whether we're blue or red, you can see what he did there, right? It's nonpartisan. These are values that unite us as people, you guys, not as parties, as people. And it's a beautiful, beautiful book. It's okay if you didn't read it, though, because I'm going to share some big takeaways. I'm going to talk about the themes that Dan Rather shares with us in this book. But it's his observations of decades as one of America's most beloved and respected journalists. What unites us? I can't wait to discuss this book with you guys next week. That is next week's episode. That is a wrap for this week, y'all. Thank you so much. Nico, thank you for being here. I so appreciate your feedback. I so appreciate you being here. Thank you, Trish, Don, Donna, Rose, George, Vicky, Georgie. Happy birthday one last time. My amazing husband. If I forgot anyone, I'm so, so sorry. I also go through the comments the next day and respond to everything. You guys, I know it's a lot of information tonight. We could have more episodes down the road about striding through struggle and getting through the hard times. And maybe we'll make that a recurring kind of series. But thank you guys for being here. I hope you got some great takeaways and we can all get through the hard times better together. Remember that too. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. I love y'all, and I will see you next week. Good night, everyone.